All right. Apparently, I've been removed from the non-football injury list, but that's really not important today. As the 49ers open training camp, everybody scheduled to report. Right now, 89 players on their 90-man roster after George Odom was released over the weekend. And so there will be some news today as head down there, and John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan are scheduled to speak to the media at 11 a.m. And so I guess the couple things, first and foremost, it's kind of the status of the wide receivers. And, number one, Ricky Pearsall, when the 49ers ended the offseason program, he was said to be very close to being able to practice and probably could have practiced, but the 49ers just didn't want to take any chances with only a couple practices at mandatory mini camp left. So unless there's been some setback in that 40 days away from the 49ers, Ricky Pearsall should be on track to be on the field tomorrow. If he's not, that means that he encountered some sort of setback in his conditioning to get ready for training camp. So Ricky Pearsall, if he's the number one thing, the number one status update that we're going to be looking for, then 1A or 1B would be Jawan Jennings. Again, expected to report just like Brandon Ayuk did last year. The question is, and if this is something that Shanahan or Lynch will even address today, is when practices start on Wednesday, will Joan Jennings be on the field? Last year, Brandon Ayuk reported on time. He was not placed on PUP, which meant that he was able to practice, although Kyle Shanahan did at one point, I think it was after the first practice when Brandon Ayuk wasn't out there, kind of did the wink, wink, nod, nod. Oh, his neck's bothering him, his back's bothering him. And then he just cut to the chase and said it's a hold-in situation. So with Joan Jennings, the 49ers want him to practice. The question is, will he practice without that new contract that he desires? Everybody knows he's on the second year of a $15.3 million contract that he signed in May of 2024. When he signed that contract, he was the number 3 receiver behind Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. 49ers were obviously angling for a long-term extension with Brandon Ayuk. And then Jennings signed that deal. And because of Deebo Samuel's up and down season, because of Brandon Ayuk getting off to a slow start and then getting injured through the course of the season, Jawan Jennings became quite clearly the 49ers' number 1 wide receiver. So now that he's, in essence, outplayed that contract, he's looking for a new deal. His agent, Drew Rosenhaus, put it out there that he wants a new contract. And if he doesn't get the new contract that he desires, he would like to be traded. Well, I just don't see the 49ers trading Jawan Jennings. Their leverage in this is that they do have him under contract for this season. So they aren't forced to trade him. They can keep him. Jawan Jennings is a professional football player. Professional football players get paid to play football. So they have that, but they can also work behind the scenes to get a new contract for him that extends him beyond the season. Right now, when you look at the 49ers and how they're set up for the future, whereas a year ago, they had all these guys who were coming up on free agency, and you knew that they would have a difficult time retaining those players, such as Aaron Banks, such as Dre Greenlaw, Charvarius Ward, Talanoa Hufanga. And as it turns out, they didn't keep any of those guys. This year, as they head into training camp, the only players looking ahead a year who are scheduled for unrestricted free agency next spring would be Jawan Jennings and Colton McKivitz, right tackle. Both of those guys, if they have good seasons, are in line to get really handsome paydays. Right tackles, offensive linemen as a whole, they make very good money. And Colton McKivitz made an improvement last year over the year before. If he continues on that track, he could be setting himself up for a really large payday. And the same can be said for Jawan Jennings. If he plays out this season, if he has the kind of year he had last year, this year, then he's in line to make a huge sum of money because wide receiver, we know that wide receiver market, heck, wide receiver market and the offensive line market are probably two of the biggest markets out there as far as those guys getting paid. So those are two of the things that we'll definitely be watching on Tuesday as the 49ers report to training camp. And yeah, again, with Jennings, it'll be really interesting to see how the 49ers handle this, how Jennings handles it, how his representation handles it, and just how adamant, how deep both sides kind of dig their heels into this. I think it is very possible for the 49ers and for Jennings' side to work out a contract. Now, it might not be at that huge level of 15 or 16 million a year, something that he could probably get on the open market, but there's a way for him to get a nice pay raise that is beyond the 7.5 million that he's scheduled to make this season, or a little bit more than that, to make him happy, give him a little bit more security, and also get him on the practice field, because that is imperative for the 49ers. We saw what happened last year with all the players who did not participate in training camp. They all at some point sustained injuries during the season. Is that a result of not participating in training camp? Perhaps. But I mean, look at it with Christian McCaffrey, look at it with Brandon Ayuk, with Trent Williams. Is that a coincidence? Probably not. So it is important for the 49ers offense, for the 49ers team to get Jawan Jennings out there. So we'll see how that turns out. And also kind of the first hints will be just how John Lynch addresses it, just how Kyle Shanahan addresses it on Tuesday. So the first thing would be the injury situation. The 49ers do have, as I mentioned, 89 players under contract. They had 6 wide receivers who took part in tryouts on Monday. We'll see if the 49ers sign one of those wide receivers. And if they have an inkling that Jennings won't be out there at practice, I would expect them to sign one of those wide receivers. And the wide receiver who has, in my name, in my mind, the biggest name and certainly the longest name is Equanimous St. Brown. He's been in the league for quite some time, kind of bounced around a little bit, but he would be somebody to keep an eye on, I think, if the 49ers do decide to add to their roster at the wide receiver position. So as the 49ers open training camp, 4 guys we know for sure will not practice on Wednesday when practices begin. Brandon Ayuk, all these guys, ACL guys, Brandon Ayuk, Malik Mustafa, Curtis Robinson, and NFI guy, another ACL guy, 7th round draft pick, Curtis Rourke. Now, of those guys, I would think that Curtis Robinson probably has the best chance to be cleared first and get on the practice field. Last time I saw him during the offseason program, he looked like he was getting around very well. Could he be cleared on Wednesday? Probably not. But I think all the other guys, in the case of Curtis Rourke, probably looking at a redshirt year for him, and probably won't ever see him on the practice field this year. They could open the practice window for him later in the year, but I would expect that they would shut him down and keep him on NFI for the whole season. Ayuk and Mustafa are 2 guys who are starters, and the 49ers do want to be careful with them because with Ayuk, the ACL also has some other stuff in there. When it was repaired in mid-November, it was an ACL, it was an MCL, it was some cartilage damage. He appears to be coming along very well, but 49ers are also cognizant of the fact that they have him under contract for several more years, so they don't want to take any chances with him. And then Malik Mustafa, a repair of the ACL that he injured, that he tore when he was at Wake Forest. He sustained this latest injury in the 49ers' final game of the regular season, Week 18. He had the surgery in January. So again, with him this year and 2 more years under contract, he proved himself to be a starting player. 49ers aren't going to take any chances. They're going to, I would assume, start the season on PUP so that he would miss, along with Brandon Ayuk, miss the first 4 games of the season guaranteed. Okay, now the ones to keep an eye on, and we'll probably get some updates on this or some indication of how close these guys are to practicing and how many of these guys will practice on Wednesday. And the thing with, I really wasn't aware of this, but veteran players who are injured in the off season, are rehabbing injuries, going through physical therapy, they can report to training camp 5 days early. So 2 days after the rookies reported on Tuesday, the veteran guys who were carrying over injuries from the offseason could report early just to get the strength and conditioning and the athletic training staff's hands on these guys. And those players are Ricky Pearsall with the hamstring injury, which all indications are he should be okay. Andre Dillard, the offensive tackle, the 49ers signed, former first-round pick of the Eagles. He had his ankle scoped in the offseason. Kyle Shanahan said back in June he should be ready for training camp. And the same goes for Yetur Gross-Matos, wear and tear with the knee. Probably not the urgency to get him on the practice field. He's a veteran guy. He's played a lot of football. And, that term wear and tear is always kind of, a little bit iffy because it does kind of, it kind of leads you to believe that there will be some sort of pitch count for him, resting him on regular occasions during training camp. So those are the guys to keep an eye on, as well as Ben Bartch. Offensive lineman who right now I think is the front runner to win the starting left guard position after Aaron Banks leaves for that lucrative contract from the Green Bay Packers. Ben Bartch is on NFI. He was not injured during the offseason program, so it wasn't a football injury, non-football, which means more than likely he was injured while working out. So we'll see where that stands as far as his availability to get on the field and begin practice. But certainly there's one to keep an eye on, because a guy who's kind of slated, tentatively speaking, slated to take over in the starting lineup, he needs those reps during training camp. So those are the guys to keep an eye on. And also it should be mentioned, Jawan Jennings was not placed on PUP. He did not report early. He had a calf injury during the offseason program, the last few weeks of the offseason program. So that'll be interesting as well, just to see what the 49ers say about him, about his availability. And what's the company line as far as Joan Jennings, and will he practice? Won't he practice? Where are things as far as the contract? Both sides, they both have what they probably feel is their leverage. For Jennings, it's, hey, you need me. Ayuk's not available. Deebo Samuel's in Washington. Demarcus Robinson, there's some question about his availability early in the season, and a bunch of young guys behind him, including Ricky Pearsall, who, may or may not start training camp on PUP. But Jawan Jennings is a huge part of this offense, both as a pass catcher and both as a run blocker as well. So those are the things I'll be keeping an eye on, mostly health related and just where things stand as far as the state of the team, kind of tying up any loose ends. So we will hear from John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan a little bit later in the day, and I'm sure I'll have an update for you at that time as well. So thanks for checking out this video, and that is it for now.